All right, let me know when we're go.
It's on.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Today we're talking about the power of emotional branding. What is that? Are we talking about making people cry, making them laugh, making them feel happy, feel sad? What is emotional branding? That's what we're talking about today and how you can use it in your business. We are Nate and Simone, and we talk all things marketing. Hey, Nate, let's get into it.
Hello, hello again. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so emotional branding. Like we were just talking about this earlier. This is a new, concept to me, like t putting it into these terms, emotional branding. I don't think I've actually heard that put it that way, but um, I have heard, however, that we as consumers are usually, oh, actually, no, I think it's 100%. Well, 95 according to Harvard. Gerald Zaltman, professor at Harvard, says 95% of purchase decisions happen in the subconscious mind. And he wrote about it in a book called How Customers Think, Essential Insights into the Mind of the Market. So if you want to check that out, you can. But 95% of purchasing decisions occur subconsciously, and they're based on emotion. Uh, and 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 we kind of justify it logically after the fact. But again, this is all
Perfect.
happening sort of unconsciously. It's not like something you're really thinking about. Most
Right.
people are not really thinking about um, during the process. So that means that we're all just kind of floating out there, guided along by these amazing marketers who can tap into this and get us to do whatever they want.
That is true. If you've ever watched any of what's his name, Russell Brunson's videos,
Mhm.
when he is speaking from the stage, that man, he has studied hypnosis, he has studied all kinds of different techniques in order to get the audience to buy. And it's very interesting. But he does play on the emotion, and he understands the psychology. I remember in one talk he talked about in using different cues, right? He talked about using different cues to um, to elicit a certain feeling from the audience as he's on stage talking. So he could be talking, he's talking about his product or his service or whatever it is he's talking about, and he's talking about maybe the problems and the issues. And every time he says like yes, he'll point towards the table where you go to purchase. And every
Mm,
time he says,
wow.
and every time the feeling is no, he'll point towards the exit
The
doors, you
competition.
know,
It's like,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, so and he's doing it all very quickly, kind of off the cuff, and you don't necessarily realize it until, he revealed like what he's doing. But, unless you're like really good at paying very close attention to those cues, you won't really notice it.
Mm,
It's
wow.
really interesting.
It also reminds me of something I've talked about on here, our conversations before. It's the book, The One Sentence Persuasion Course by Blair Warren, I believe.
I remember.
Um, yeah, and he's like this 20-year vet of the copywriting industry, and he essentially distilled all of his knowledge into one sentence to get anyone to do anything that you want them to do. And it goes, people will do anything for those who encourage their dreams, justify their failures, allay their fears, confirm their suspicions, and help them throw rocks at their enemies. All of which, in my mind at least, really play on the emotions of the person that you're trying to reach. All of those are very emotionally impactful things, right? Your
Sure.
dreams, feelings of failure, feelings of fear, suspicious feelings, and then of course if somebody helps you throw rocks at their enemies, you're probably like, oh, hey, big brother's here to protect me, you feel whatever that emotion is exactly, I'm not sure, but yeah,
Well, yeah, I guess it's kind of the emotion of being right, feeling like you're right,
justification
when
maybe,
other
yeah,
people are wrong, justification, right? And feeling justified.
yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the question here is, are your campaigns, your marketing campaigns especially, designed to resonate emotionally, or are you missing an opportunity to connect deeply with your audience? Something to ponder. Put it down. Answer in the comments for the video and let us know what you're thinking.
Absolutely.
Um, all right. Let's see here. Okay. So what are the elements of emotional branding? How do we what's the recipe here that we need in order to make this effective for us? Um,
Oh, first one, tell a story.
yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Um, that's one of the things that Russell Brunson uses very well as well. If you look
Mhm.
at any of his funnels, you go to any of his talks, webinars, anything like that, he tells story after story after story that draws you in, and it helps you to be in the place where he is. So, and it sets the scene, and you can see yourself in the story and feel the emotions that he was feeling the relief maybe when he learned something new or found a new opportunity or something like that.
Mhm.
It's Stories are extremely powerful when it comes to making you feel an emotion, especially if you can draw your audience in and um, set the scene for them, and they can see themselves in that story.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, I think, humans, generally speaking, we love stories,
You do.
kind of like stories bring us into the world and take us out, I mean, it's just like music. I'd say it's probably maybe second only to music. I don't know. It's probably too close to call, in terms of like the importance, to our lives, I think.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how we make sense about the world, right? And so you're using that to your advantage. You are helping people to make sense of what it is you have to offer and how you can help them, right? And putting it in terms of a story, I think, gets into the unconscious, um, tying it into these deep-seated blocks that kind of make up who we are and trigger all kinds of other things that go along with it, right? Um, anyway, so another key aspect or thing to include here. Well, okay, like one example of storytelling might be Nike and their Just Do It campaign. Um, if you ever watch a Nike commercial in the Just Do It campaign, then um, it usually starts with someone kind of getting out there, tightening up their shoes. They're in a kind of like a scenic location. Maybe it's urban, who knows, but it kind of depends. Setting the scene, and they're getting out there. They're going to do their thing, and they're living their life their way, and they're going to conquer their fears and reach their goals, right? And they're going to do it
Yeah.
using Nike shoes. That's
No other shoe will do.
that's right. That's right. Yep. Yep. Capable of carrying you to your dreams. It's amazing. Um, so that kind of goes into the next key ingredient, which is visuals. So there's the psychology of color, imagery, design, and how that evokes emotions. One one key example that shows up or comes to mind is Coca-Cola, and the fact that they're using red and warm, joyful commercials, and they're showing people having fun. I like to teach the world to sing. They make a whole song out of it. Like it's it's incredible what they're able to do with that. Um, and I don't know. Do you know much about color psychology? Um,
Don't
so
know a whole lot about color psychology, but it's very quick to look up the different colors
yeah,
that
yeah,
and
like
what their colors evoke.
yeah, like the color blue, for example, evokes a sense of trust, and
Mhm.
you'll see a lot of tech companies that use blue exactly because of this reason. And the color red, obviously, is very aggressive, right?
Mhm.
It kind of has
Passion.
a Yes, it has several different meanings depending on the context. So you have to be very careful about the context, I think. But reds are used in restaurants because they can make you hungry. Um, so you might see a lot of reds in restaurants, which is kind of interesting.
Oh, and urgency. And it talks about urgency. So that's
But it's
interesting.
also can
So
be alarm and danger, so you got to be careful.
yeah,
It does,
which is
and for
why we
that
use it for
reason,
stop signs.
yes, exactly, and for that reason, it has a lower conversion on if you use it on buttons on your website, for example, the color red.
Really?
Yeah, I believe I read that the highest converting color for buttons on a website is blue,
Blue.
but red is actually I think second or third, um, and green is second or third. It's red, blue, green. So so actually blue, red, green. I think that's the order, but you can check me on that. But
Oh, prosperity for the color green.
yeah,
Uh,
there's a reason why it's associated with the environment, you know, um, uh,
nature,
going green,
balance,
yeah.
you know,
hmm
yeah. Purple is luxury, creativity, and royalty.
Black can also be luxury, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do most car commercials, especially the higher end cars. Cars are black in their commercials.
Yep.
You don't see too many, white or silver or red or any other color. It's mostly black. Black Cadillacs, black Mercedes.
Even though silver is like the number one most popular color in America, right? I guess, yeah. So in a luxury car commercial, it won't be a silver car, but maybe on like Toyota commercial, they're gonna be. Like, although Toyota has Lexus, I guess the Lexus would be anyway. That's a slightly different, but anyway, kind of depends. All right. So another key factor here is your tone and their messaging. So um, kind of how you shape the tone of your message can affect people's perception of it, right? And one example might be Dove when they did their Real Beauty campaign. So it's very positive and inclusive tone, and they use that to connect more deeply with their audience. Um, Trying to think of another example here for tone and messaging. I would think like, you know, this might be a bad example, but something a written people that are really good at writing, like on Rolling Stone magazine, for example, I would never the tone of that magazine is very irreverent, and anti-establishment, right? I couldn't picture it being any other way, whereas it's probably like diametrically opposed to like the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times. Um, but trying to think, I got those are all brands, it's important for those written publisher, publications to have a brand image and all that, right? Um,
Yeah.
okay. So here's another thought for, the listeners, the viewers here. So thinking about your own messaging, are you evoking trust, joy, excitement, or are your campaigns just focused on functionality?
'Cause I think
Have you come across?
sometimes us as the product creators or the marketers, we tend to think, well, logically, our audience should gravitate toward this product because we know it's valuable. It's going to increase your ROI. It's gonna help you in your life or your business or your health or your family. Logically, this product, this service makes sense, but we have to remember that the audience, they're not necessarily thinking logically. They're coming with their feelings and their past life experiences and what they've been missing in the past and what they care about now. And all of that is just this one big ball of an emotional experience that they're bringing to you. And so you have to speak to that rather than just to their logical brain.
Yeah. There was somebody, let me think here if I could find it. Somebody said that there are 7 things people will that will cause people to give you money, basically. And here we go. I found it. So that is, um, so these are the 7 things that business owners want to spend their money on, and they'll be happy to part with their money. So if you can help them to save on time,
Mhm.
save save on money or make more money. Um, you can give them good feelings. Well, obviously, if you can solve their problems, you can help improve their health, or
Mhm.
you can, help them with their children or their pets. So that's kind of interesting thing
Yeah,
to
I've
think
heard that
about.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially like the children, the pets thing, saving time. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard
But
those
like
before.
number one is like saving time or like saving money. Those
Mhm.
those are the 2 things that people quickly, if you can help them and you can show this is something that you'll do, they'll be, take my money.
Oh,
If you can do something for them that gives them their time back, like through automation, setting up automations, that kind of thing, people will happily, part with their funds for that kind of thing too, right?
yeah.
But so again, taking this into consideration, can you incorporate this into your messaging then? To help to encourage and move the process along, right? When it comes to finding and converting paying customers. All right. So, what about some real life examples here? Can we think of any? I have some written down just to help us uh, jog our minds here. One is Apple and how they bring innovation and aspiration to life. Um, they do a great job of showing like the connection and creativity. Apple is all about creativity. I was thinking about this the other day. All like the devices that I have, my iPad, I use it for almost exclusively creative pursuits. It's kind of interesting without even really thinking about it.
What's interesting is that Apple has this way of making their customers feel like they're better than the Android users. So they have this kind of a uh, built-in superiority complex when
Yeah.
when they
Yeah.
get Apple products.
Well, I've heard of kids making fun of other kids if they have an Android phone at school, right? Because it means that you're definitely buying at a certain price point, you know. Well, it used to be more so that, right, than it is now. Now they have Google has very, high-end, highly competitive Android devices, that they've created. But it used to be that Android was for the masses, and so it was, much lower priced. They were making up for it for the gap there in sheer volume, right? It's, whereas Apple is much more leading edge, bleeding edge technology. It's much more exclusive because it's much higher priced because it requires heavy R&D, um, and it's really only for those who are, you know, living in the future, and waiting for everyone else to catch up, like
Right, yeah, which is probably where that superiority complex comes
yeah,
from.
yeah, yeah. Um, so let's think here. Another one would be like Airbnb. So they focus on belonging, um, and they part of their messaging revolves around community and exploration. So they're encouraging people to get out there, to go to maybe some places that were previously inaccessible because they didn't have a hotel there, right? And
I remember Uber, whether it was Uber or Lyft, but I think it was Uber. They used to focus on conversation, like get in a car and have a conversation with a perfect stranger, which I thought
yeah,
was interesting.
and they will. It's interesting. I agree. For me, my experience has been that while you can kick up a conversation with an Uber driver, the Lyft drivers seem way more friendly and open to conversation. I don't know why that is.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Um, okay. Let's see. Can we think of any other examples? Let's see here.
I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Here's some stuff that Google has brought up when I did a search. They said, let's see here, the anti-plastic straw movement.
Mm,
Interesting.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
that would bring up a lot of emotions. And people who do
yeah,
want plastic straws, that brings up emotions too.
yeah, yeah. Who knew straws could be so emotional?
Yeah,
Just to look at the thing, you wouldn't guess it.
it's
Um,
true.
but let's see here. Heineken's campaign for Worlds Apart. I don't know this one. Are you familiar?
I'm not sure about that one.
Apparently, it has openness and explores how common ground can unite people. Hmm, okay, Heineken. Who knew? Um, let's see here. Another one was St. Jude's Hospital.
Yeah.
Um, very emotive and memorable marketing, apparently. Let's see. Can't think of any examples of that though. Geico's Hump Day. I don't know about that one. Hump Day commercial. I don't know that one either.
It's been way
Huh.
back in the day because I don't remember
Yeah.
any Hump Day commercials.
When was this published? Let's look. Oh, this is 2019. That's probably why. Okay. Out of date. Um, well, anyway, so there's an endless number of examples out there. Is kind of the point, I guess. Okay. Okay. So
So
next,
we have examples to draw on for our own marketing campaigns when
that's
it
true.
comes to so when it comes to doing our own emotional branding, we have to decide what emotions that we want our audience to have when they are either looking at our ads or our content or our websites or anything like
Yeah.
that. Like what what emotion do we want them to come away with? And what we're in our content, in our images, in even just how we show up, how does it, what impression do they have? What do they feel? Is it cohesive? Is that branding cohesive across all of our different assets? And do they feel the same way across all the different assets, right? Um, is like, say, your social media making them feel one way and the website making them feel a different way, right?
Yep.
You
Yep.
know,
Agreed.
there
Agreed.
needs to be some cohesiveness there, absolutely.
Yeah, and we were talking about this earlier about the things that we've done that could be considered emotional branding or in this vein at least. And I just recently revamped my website homepage, and eventually I'm going to redo the whole website, but one thing at a time, I guess. But starting with the homepage, and the message there is much more emotional because it is appealing to the sense that the business owner is bumping up against a ceiling in their growth path. And so it's something that they feel more than can see, obviously, but they know where they want to get to, but they just can't seem to get there. And they just feel like there's something that's keeping them, holding them back. That's kind of how it feels. And the idea would be that I can help them unpack what's going on um, with that and create yeah, kind of come up with a clear path forward there, right? And so to that end, I have a the main call to action on my homepage is to have the visitor take a what I call the growth ceiling quiz, right? So what is it exactly that's holding you back? And so the questions just walk them through, asking them different questions pertaining to their business, how they generate leads, are they consistent with their marketing campaigns, how their financials look, etc. And without going into, details, right? But the results then um, will give them an idea of where they're at, what stage that they're in, what they might need to do moving forward, and book a call with me to if they need help. Kind of, so that's but I intend to use that growth, the idea of the growth ceiling, something that's keeping them, preventing them from moving forward more going forward in my messaging then. So,
What emotion is that they that you want them to feel?
well, I guess it's a mix of, frustration um, and a sense that they could be better, but something is holding them back. It's just they definitely have all the things in place. They have the drive, right? They have the motivation. They just can't. They don't know what they need to do next. And I think we talked about this earlier, like the concept of using a a very old concept in copywriting, which is problem agitate solution, PAS framework. So you would present a problem, in this case, the growth ceiling, and then you agitate it. Well, what is it that's exactly keeping you there, and what is the cost of remaining there, in that sort of stuck position? And then offer what I do, what I can, how I can help them as the solution. So therefore, ultimately, I'm presenting the idea of, or the emotion of, relief. The relief then is the solution that I provide, right? So I think that PAS framework is sort of like runs the gamut there with those emotions, right? That's kind of like the whole point is to like agitate and poke at it and say that you understand where they're at.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it does.
yeah.
It does. Um, yeah, especially when you come at it with when you put a story in that and you talk about where you've been and how you've been at the same place, and you can inject some empathy in there.
Definitely. Yeah. Can identify. Yeah. Mhm.
Empathy
Um,
and authority. I've been there, I found a solution, now I can help you get the same solution.
yeah, exactly. But I think maybe it's humans' nature to react um, more to negative feelings. Like they want to get rid of those bad feelings.
Yeah.
And they're more motivated to do that than it's really kind of odd, right? More motivated to get rid of the bad feelings than we are to stick with the good feelings,
Okay,
you
with
know?
good feelings. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, they talk about like when you break down the different audiences, you break down like your cold audience. You instead of trying to present a solution to their problem, you're presenting a way for them to get away from the pain, right? So you move them away from pain rather than towards pleasure in
Yeah, there you go.
when you're talking to a cold audience. But a warm
Hmm.
audience and a hot audience, you can present a solution. You can move them towards
Yeah.
pleasure.
And maybe that goes back to the concept of the buyer's journey, right?
Mhm.
There's like problem unaware,
Right.
solution unaware, problem aware, solution
Solution
unaware,
unaware.
and
Yeah.
then problem aware, solution aware. Um,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
That
right.
is true.
Let's see here. So I guess we're about do a recap here, shall we?
Well, we do want to talk about there does need to be a balance between that emotional and the
Oh,
practical side, right? So I don't want to leave our viewers with the impression that all of your marketing and everything has to be emotional. There does need to be a glue that holds it together, that where the emotional and that practical side do come together, because you're going to have people in your audience who want to see numbers, who are logical, and they want to know that they're making a right decision with the logical brain. So when you bridge the two together, then you have something very solid when it comes to your marketing, right? So layering those messages that highlights, it brings those values together, right? The emotion side and that practicality. And then once somebody buys from you, they can feel good about it, but they also know that they've made the right decision because you've given them that the logical argument as well. So
oh,
yeah, to uh to wrap up, we want to make sure that we are using the tools at our disposal to put in to get that emotional, to have our messages be speak to the emotions of our audience, right? And so that we, because 95%, there's always that 5% that are very logical, but 95% of people make a purchasing decision based on what they feel, based on their emotions. So we do have to do that, and we do that through our storytelling and through visuals. So we're making sure that the images that we're using, the colors that we're using, speak to the emotion that we're trying to evoke, and then our tone and messaging are also part of that as well, that are evoking the emotion that we want to pull out of our audiences.
yeah, and one as you were saying that, the idea of practicality with emotion and storytelling. I think one good way to do that is by using things like case studies, you know, in your marketing, um, on your website, having those available. And again, though, this can very easily be mapped to the buyer's journey, right? And creating content which appeals to people at different stages of that buyer's journey. I think that can kind of help us to think about, well, I already have this, so I know I need to do this now to appeal to people who are here at this stage versus people who are, maybe hot and ready and raring to go, Um, so, um, yeah, you wanna try to get on people's list, right? Everyone's out there looking for solutions to their problem once they become aware of the problem, you know, maybe you are educating people about the problem to start with, and that's where, especially with the storytelling, that comes in super handy because people just may not understand that it is a problem, and so being able to put it in terms of a story that sounds like them and resonates with them, they're like, oh my gosh, that's me. What do I need to do? Kind of, all of a sudden you started to trip some wires there, and you went right straight to the top of their list of possible solutions. But people are going to start doing their research then, looking into it a little bit more, right? It's true that some people might just like, oh, I need that right now. I need the answer. You have the solution. Give it to me right now. That's like extreme velocity and sales velocity, right? And it's going to be different depending on what you have to sell. Think about like going into a dentist's office, for example. It's a much faster sales velocity, right? You go in there, doctor says, do you want to do some fluoride, right? It's $35 extra or whatever. Like, or they don't even tell you that. And then it just shows up on your bill. Like, oh yeah,
Shows up
sure, let's
on the
do some
bill,
fluoride. That
exactly.
sounds good. I know that's good for me, right? But you have made a buying decision right there, and it's like you didn't even realize or hadn't even thought of it, maybe that it was an issue. They tell you, hey, we got this thing we can offer you. What do you think? And it's extremely fast. You just tell them yes, it's right there, done. Whereas somebody who is maybe looking for more high ticket items is going to require a little more convincing, and they might do a little more shopping around. They're still going to be emotional. Like there's a lot of emotion wrapped up in the decision making and what's driving them to search. And so you still need to appeal to that, right? But because maybe they're on this longer journey, they're probably going to have more people on that list. And so that's where having this more practical side is going to come in, become crucial because you got to have those stats and figures and numbers and stuff to back it up, right? So,
Absolutely. So we
anyway,
want to identify our top three emotions that you want your customers to associate with your brand. And write some sample copy that will evoke each of those emotions. Add your visuals and your descriptors, and then share it with others for feedback. Right? Don't because I know for me, we can be our own worst critics, and we can also, be working with blinders on. So share it with people in your business community, and get some feedback on it, and make sure that it is resonating, especially with people in your ideal who are your ideal target. You especially want them to get eyes on it and to see if it resonates with them. Because if it doesn't resonate with them, then you're going to be off the mark.
yeah, and if you want feedback from either of us, of course, by all means, get in touch, and we can help you out with that as well, I think so.
Yeah, we can be your business community if you don't have one.
Hmm. All
Every
right.
business needs a village.
Yes. Yes. Um, yep, exactly. So hopefully we've learned that emotional branding is a powerful tool for influencing purchasing decisions and building customer loyalty. Um, that you should use elements like storytelling, visuals, and the tone of voice in your messaging to help evoke those strong connections. And that you should test and refine your strategies by understanding what drives your audience's emotions. Um, One good way to do that, of course, is by doing customer surveys. You know, asking people, simply just reaching out. We have a thing, call it validation calls. So if you have an idea for an offer and you think that it's going to be a good one, um, why not ask the people who would be buying it or who have bought from you before if they think it's a good idea? There, next week, we're going to be having a conversation with somebody who works for a company called Intelligentix, and that is what they do. They will call up your customers and ask them, questions to get input as to, finding out what went wrong with the interaction, what they want to see, things along those lines. It's market research, and it's much on a much larger scale, maybe. But you can do this, if you're a much smaller organization, you can do this just by calling people up and, asking them. So something to think about. All right. Let's see here. What else?
Contact us, yeah, either me or Nate, and let us know if you would like us to help you in your marketing journey to put together the messages that are going to resonate with your audience and just help you generally in on along your marketing journey. And as always, we want you to subscribe, leave a comment, tell us what you're doing to work on your emotional branding. Share this episode with your network, and of course, like the video. We want more people to see us and see this information so that they can be better served. And we would love to see you back here again next week. Thank you so much for watching.